The other day, I had a coffee with a friend, and he was telling me about a situation in his family. A few years ago, his cousin had fallen in love with someone her parents didn't like. Result, the whole family was split down the middle. Parents not speaking to kids, brothers not speaking to sisters. Things snowballed, and now, a few years on, my friend's aunt and uncle have never even met their own grandchildren, even though they only live a few miles apart. It sounded like a complete mess. In the very first chapter of the first book of the Bible, Genesis, we read how God made human beings. And they're described with these incredible words: in God's image. Somehow, human beings were made to reflect God, to be like God. The second chapter of Genesis describes God making the first man, Adam. And God says something very significant. It is not good for man to be alone. This deep little statement says a lot about what it means to be human and what it means to be in God's image. God is love. And in love, He has made the whole world. And that means that we're made for relationships, not for being alone. We're made for love. Genesis also speaks of humans having work to do, ordering and tending the world. But it starts and finishes with love. Love for God and love for other human beings. And so a second human being, a woman, Eve, was made. And out of the fruitfulness of their love comes the whole human race. There are more than 1,000 chapters in the Bible, but only those 2 short chapters describe humans as being fully able to love, having perfect, harmonious relationships. It all goes wrong in chapter 3. Adam and Eve make a very, very bad choice. They listen to temptation and doubt God. They choose to go it alone. It's a complete catastrophe. Now, whether you read the story of the fruit, the snake and the tree as literal fact or poetic symbol, it tells us that when humanity turned away from God, something at the very center of their nature was torn apart. What did they do? They hid. They hid from one another, covering themselves up, feeling ashamed, and they hid from God. Instead of love, there was shame, separation, relationship breakdown. The Bible has a word for this mess. That word is sin. That's the ancient history, but it's also bang up to date. I mean, read the papers, look at your life, and mine. I once heard it put like this: the heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart. We're all born with the same twist in our nature. As the writers of the New Testament describe it, we are born in Adam, born sinners. We're divorced from God and alienated from one another. We're on a road leading us further and further from God. Our destination? Death. It's not that we don't hunger for something better. You know we do. You, me, everyone. We crave friends, loyalty, meaning. We want to belong. You know, whether or not we know it, we're looking for God and the love that He gives. But trying to make our own way back to God, back to love, is like trying to build a bridge to the sky. Left to ourselves, we're walking straight off a cliff, and it's a long way down. But we've not been left to ourselves. There was another person in the story, remember? There wasn't just a lying snake and Adam and Eve. God was there. And God so loved the world that He made and the people that He made in it that He couldn't just walk away. He didn't wipe us all out or let the world go down. God stayed involved in human history. And from the first chapters of the Bible, we see the story of that involvement as it unfolded throughout the centuries. There was a man called Abraham who, unlike Adam, believed in God more than the lie of self-sufficiency. He was called God's friend because he believed in him. And from Abraham came a whole nation whom God called to be his friends. And throughout the twisting, turning story of that nation, God was involved with them, calling them to believe in him, rejecting the dehumanizing lies of sin. And then, at the climax of that nation's story, God came. He came right into our broken world. He became man. Jesus. Jesus didn't come with a new set of rules or a new religion. He came to love. He was a totally pure and good man, but he didn't see himself as above anyone. He loved to be with people, especially those others looked down on. He was the life and soul of people's parties, a familiar face in people's houses. He rubbed shoulders with the down-to-earth fishermen, political hotheads, desperate prostitutes, social lepers, actual lepers, you name them. They were invited into his friendship circle. Jesus was the kind of man that could turn up in the middle of a mess, like my friend's broken family, and help to bring them back together again. His touch healed. His words gave hope. He was the friend of sinners. But you know, when Jesus was first called the friend of sinners, it wasn't a compliment. The proud religious rulers of his day called him that because they didn't like the company he kept. For them, being religious meant being better than others. But Jesus came to be the friend of sinners, people who know they're stuck and need help. And Jesus didn't back down, even when it became clear that there was a plot to kill him. He stayed true to his friends. He loved us all to the end. When Jesus died, he let our mess be smeared all over him. He took all our bullying, fear and anger without complaining. He was cut off from all love, all life. It is not good for man to be alone, but Jesus was totally and horribly alone. He hung under the weight of our hate, rejection, pain and relationship breakdown, and he died. Like a bridge back to safety, Jesus, as he was nailed to the cross, closed the gap between us and God. God himself, in Jesus, soaked up all our sin, exhausted its power, and carried it away into death. And he left it there. One of the writers of the New Testament, Paul, describes Jesus as the last Adam. He meant that Jesus had brought to an end the whole sorry story of Adam's sin. And in his resurrection, alive forever and totally beyond the reach of sin and death, Jesus has become a new Adam. He started a new way of being human, a new humanity. And we can join him. An amazing opportunity has opened up before us. Jesus has bridged the gap between us and God, and us and one another. There's a new life, a new start. I would love for Jesus to walk into my friend's family and heal them and bring them all together again. And I would love for Jesus to walk into your life too. We're not on our own. We can be friends again.